This is Travis Wayne Goodsell. Finding out that people have an interest in the real Mormon history. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has this year put out they're doing a series, I guess, but they're redoing the history, and they're still getting it wrong. The gospel topic essays that the church put out way back in the day confesses that they've been lying and deceiving us this whole time. And so as a result, I did my own research on church history. And with today's misinformation and disinformation campaign that's been, we have been under attack by Russia and conservatives. And as a result, the how to identify truth is getting stolen from us as people are promoting their own belief systems and their own feelings as truth. I've even heard the slogan, preach your truth. That's not how it works. When you do research on any topic, you need to identify the facts, and you collect evidence to establish what the facts are. When doing church history, since we know we can't trust the church for truth, we have to go to history itself. And it hasn't been that long, so there's still enough preserved for us to figure things out. So, for example, the Book of Mormon. Mormons wrongly trust what the church has been saying, that it's an actual history of the indigenous people on the Americas. That's false. How do we know it's false? Again, it has nothing to do with my feelings, my opinions, my beliefs, or my truth. Nor does it have anything to do with yours. You can't just say it and it automatically is true. The church has already confessed to lying, so we can't trust them. So we've got to independently do our own research on the Book of Mormon if you're going to find out if it's a true history or something else. Critics take only a small sampling of the evidence and draw a conclusion hastily. Now, I worded it specifically because even critics are unsound in their claims of church history. Just because the Book of Mormon is plagiarized does not mean that critics can dismiss the whole book as a falsehood designed to deceive people. You have to find out what the real history is to find out if that's correct. And you can't go in trying to find only those evidences that prove your conclusion. You have to use the evidence to establish the facts and let that lead to the conclusion. And that's a big difference, because the older we get, the more set in our ways we become. And so it's difficult to cast aside all of what we've been told to find out what really is true. And that's often called baggage. And so with The real history of the Book of Mormon. This is the process that I did. I searched for the evidence and the facts and let that lead me to what was true. And as I did that, I started to get hypotheses for what the conclusion might be. And as I kept studying, that had to change. For example, Sidney Rigdon. Now, critics know that he's the author of the Book of Mormon. And Mormons deny it, saying, well, he wasn't baptized until December of 1830. So therefore, he couldn't have been the author. Again, Mormon logic is just lame. But so for critics, you try to figure out, well, okay, Sidney Rigdon wrote the Book of Mormon. He plagiarized it. But why? How did he do it? What books did he use? Why did he use those books? Why did he use those books in the specific places that he did in the Book of Mormon? What did Sidney Rigdon get out of it? Because the Smiths were poor. They had to get Martin Harris to pay for the publication of the book. So what did Sidney Rigdon get for payment for his work? See, all those things are questions that come up once just one sliver of evidence is presented. And you've got to follow all those branches to find out what happened, why, when, where, who. And so this is what I did in my research. And so I had to start somewhere. The church chose to start their resubmission of the lies with the volcanic eruption that forced the Smiths to move to Palmyra. And so they sort of neglect some key historical facts because they don't want the specific truth to come out. And as I did in a previous video on this channel, the current leadership, even the Brigham leadership, didn't know the real church history. And so what the church is doing is selecting from what church historians have found out. Now remember, they fired the September 6th because the September 6th were finding things that were displeasing to the church. And so in an attempt to sort of defend themselves against September 6th and all their publications, specifically D. Michael Quinn and the Tanners, the church has picked and chosen what they wanted from the church history and assemble it into a narrative. And unfortunately, their narrative is not sound. There are questions, there are gaps, there are inaccuracies, there are inconsistencies, there are contradictions. And that's the problem when you go with feelings rather than letting the facts lead you. And so when I did my book, I went to the marriage of Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack. That's where I began. And I could have gone further back in time, and I did make some references to earlier stuff, such as Smith Sr., his father or grandfather, I think grandfather, have to double check when I do the videos of my book that I published. He was involved in the Salem witch trials, testifying against those accusing women of being witches. And in fact, he was a part of the famous one. And so, with this understanding, when you look at D. Michael Quinn's research about the Smiths and witchcraft, magic, that sort of is contradictory with the other evidence that's also involved. So, were the Smiths magicians, witchcraft, or were they using what was misused as witchcraft for something other than what it was considered? Because remember, everybody was paranoid about witchcraft and the use of things as being witchcraft methods and tactics. And so when you expand your research, you realize, oh, that's why. That's what's going on. And I'll just throw in Knights Templar. You got to study Knights Templar in order to understand the Smiths and why they did what they did with what they did it with. And so, yeah, D. Michael Quinn, go to the Knights Templar. Study them out. There's a YouTube video, Holy Grail in America. Watch it. That's the title of it, Holy Grail in America. It's about the Knights Templar and the Kensington Stone in Wisconsin. So watch it. And so I'm going to do a church history playlist, and this is the introduction for it. And so the book that I'll be utilizing is my book, Real History of the Book of Mormon, The Truth About the Most Lied About Book. And I can only find it when I type in Travis Wayne Goodsell, Real History of the Book of Mormon. Otherwise, it sends me on a wild goose chase because of their analytical program. So yeah, even Amazon censors me. So, all right. Yeah, the book was published on the 23rd of September of this year. I had done chapter segments that I turned into books. So each section of this book I got from the smaller books that I did. That's the tactic that I found works best for me, is do one topic, cover the topic in a book, go to the next topic, cover that topic in a book, and then when I get enough topics, I can arrange those into books, bigger books. So that's how I did this one. So the History of the Book of Mormon is the collection with additional material.